Hello everyone, my name is Elite and welcome back to another Warhammer video. Today we are looking at the Hours Heresy. So as we're all aware, the Hours Heresy came to an end officially with the third volume of the End and the Death books. And so I thought I would make a series looking at which ones you should read from the Hours Heresy, and then we'll do a second part on the Siege of Terror and the End and the Death combined. So without further ado, let's get into the video. I have structured this in a tier list to make it easy to understand. We'll be starting with the bottom tier and then we'll end with the top tier of why you should read them or should not read them, in my personal opinions. Now, starting with what I've listed as collections, essentially these are books that I would say you can skip. For example, the Vulcan trilogy that happens within the series is pretty missable. There's a few cool moments, but I personally wouldn't say go out and read them. They aren't the best. That also extends to some of the other Salamander books, such as Deathfire. It just is a pretty big miss. The Salamanders aren't super important. They have a few cool characters. Vulcan is pretty cool in some books, but unfortunately he isn't cool in his own books or his Legion's books. Now, for the rest of the collections, I actually haven't read them, which is why they're there, so I don't really have an opinion on them. However, you can definitely skip Mechanicum, because it's a Mechanicus book, and who likes those? Now, moving on to the ones that I kind of had to force myself to read because I thought that they would be important, but ends up not really being important. We'll start with the Dark Angels trilogy of books, or at least the books that focus around the Dark Angels, and my god, they're bad. I love the Dark Angels as much as anyone else. I think they're a cool legion. They have a lot of cool toys and lore. However, they are just pretty fucking missable. The Lion is arguably the only good part of them, and even then, it's a hit or miss with the Lion. And I'm sure you're seeing the other book that I have in this list is A Thousand Sun. I hate A Thousand Sun. It is so boring and meaningless, and it is just so slow. Like, it does pick up towards the end because we get towards the burning of Prospero, but it is just so fucking boring. Now we're moving on to the Reddit purely for lore tab. I read Deliverance Lost purely because I heard it was good and it had Corvus Corax in it. It was alright. I do like Corvus Corax as a character, but again, it's just one of those books that I feel like you could skip and you wouldn't necessarily miss much. Wolfsbane is a little bit different. I feel like you get a lot of good characterization from Leman Russ in this book. And it also has the fight that wounds Horus that ends up leading to his equerry giving up his life to save Horus's life once again. And it also kind of is the reason why Leman Russ is not in the rest of the Heresy after this point. The two White Scars books, being Wolfsbane and Scars, not Wolfsbane, Path of Heaven and Scars, are really, really good. White Scars are very, very underrated in the lore. They need more lore. And overall, I just really enjoy these books. Jagadai Khan is a great character and a great Primarch. And it's kind of unfortunate that he gets sidelined a lot of the time. But he is definitely worth reading. Now, Betrayer is an interesting book in my opinion because I do want to like it. Mostly because I do like how Angron and Lorgar and Rabute Gilliman are portrayed in the book. However, I just can't bring myself to like it too much. It feels like a lot of scenes drag on, and spoiler warning for the ending. It kind of feels like a cop-out that Lorgar is getting the shit kicked out of him, and Rabute Gilliman is winning, and then Angron just comes out of nowhere and saves him. Like, he should have just let Lorgar die, if I'm being honest. And the final book in this tier is Angel Exterminatus. It's an alright book. It's got Perturabo and it's got Fulgrim's ascension to demonhood. But again, is just kind of there. You don't really need to read it. And if you gave this a miss, I would not blame you. Now, for decent reads, Master of Mankind. It's okay. Everyone says it's really good. I found it kind of boring and actually put it down for a while. And then I ended up finishing it because I wanted to see the end. The only cool bits in the book are where the Emperor gets up off the throne and goes to fight, and where we see the demon sword that Abaddon has in 40k. Draknayen is the name of the sword. Apart from that, you could miss this book. I wouldn't say go miss it on purpose because it does have the Emperor in it. Thinking about it now, I'd probably put it in good reads, but I also don't mind it being in the decent reads section. Now, Prospero Burns. This is a pretty decisive book in the community from what I can tell. Some people love it, some people hate it. It is kind of the flip side of Thousand Sun, where it shows the Space Wolves part of the story. And if you enjoy Space Wolves, definitely give it a read. I'm not the biggest fan of the Space Wolves, which is why it's here instead of higher or lower. It does give better characters or characterization for the Space Wolf characters. Apart from that, it's a book. Now, The Buried Dagger is probably one of the books that you will want to read because it is, to my knowledge, the final book before the Siege of Terra begins. But also it is the point where Mortarion embraces demonhood and the Death Guard really become the Death Guard we know. I don't actually remember much of this book, but I would say give it a read purely because it is the last book in the Hours Heresy name before we begin the Siege of Terra. Fear to Tread, don't remember this. I remember I enjoyed it a lot, but I don't remember about the story. You can destroy me in the comments for that opinion, but you know, that's fine. Next is Praetorian of Dawn. This book is pretty important in my opinion because you get to see the Alpha Legion, which is always fun. I really like the Alpha Legion in these books. You also get to see Rogel Dawn for one of the first times, or you get to see him properly as a character for the first time in his own kind of novel, besides, you know, the other ones like Flight of the Eisenstein and Horus Rising. And last but not least in this tier, we have Ruinstorm. I just enjoy the Unremembered Empire trio, being Sanguinius, the Lion, and Rabute Gilliman. They are really fun to read about and listen to because I listen to the audiobooks. I wouldn't blame you for giving this a miss. Again, you could miss it, but why would you want to miss out on Sanguinius, our beautiful angel boy we all want to suck on his toes? Now, heading into the Goodreads. Before we do that, make sure to like and subscribe if you're still watching, and blast me in the comments, rip me apart in the comments for my opinions. I want to hear all of your opinions and how wrong I am. Now on to Goodreads. We have Pharos and the First Heretic, or Pharos, however you want to say it. I really like Alexis Polis and Barbara Stantioch as characters. I think their bromance in the books is really, really cool, especially considering their legions are so opposed to one another. Not only that, but we also get to see the Night Lords really be their own characters, which I enjoy. I haven't really read many Night Lord books, and the ones that I have, the worst part of it has been Conrad Kurz, so seeing that he is not in this book is awesome. Now, the First Heretic is a bit of an interesting one. I enjoy this purely because of Lorgar, and as I said earlier, I didn't like Lorgar in Betrayer, and I kind of think Lorgar is a piece of shit, but you can't blame him because he is a pretty good character, and I like the journey he goes on in this book. I don't really have much else to say. And for our second last tier, we have great sci-fi books. I don't know if these would be considered great sci-fi books, but I would consider them great Hours Heresy books. Fulgrim pretty much just deals with Fulgrim's fall to chaos and his war with the Leia that we all know about, where he grabs the penis-shaped sword and puts it in his asshole. This has a lot of your favorite Emperor's Children characters that you would have met in earlier books, such as Lucius, Soltavitz, Rylanor, the Goat. It is just overall a really good book. It is 100% worth reading, and spoiler alert, Ferrus Manus gets one head shorter during the book, which is honestly a very emotional scene, because this is one of the only times we really see Ferrus Manus in the Heresy, considering the whole head cut off thing pretty early on. But he is very, very good in this book. Fulgrim is great in this book, and we also get to see more of the drop site massacre during this. Now we're on to Unremembered Empire, and this is, I would have put this up the top, but Konrad Kurz is a piece of shit and we all hate him. Unremembered Empire deals with the founding of Imperium Secundus. Unfortunately, the book is mainly Guilliman, which is awesome, and the Lion, not so awesome. Sanguinius comes in at the end, which kind of annoys me, because I would have liked to see more of him, but he does come in at the end and he is named Emperor of the new Imperium. The other really cool part of this book, which I love, and this is going to be really funny to say, is Vulcan. Vulcan is in this book, and he is just batshit insane. And there's this one really fun scene where Konrad Kurz has basically just destroyed a bunch of wolves, not real wolves, space wolves, and he's about to kill Guilliman's mother, and it's described as this mass just comes barging in to Konrad Kurz, and then because it was an audiobook, he just goes, "It was Vulcan," and he just yeets him out a window and off a building. And then Vulcan immediately dies and gets back up because perpetual powers. Overall, Unremembered Empire is one of the better books in the Hours Heresy, and I definitely think it's worth reading if you're interested in the Imperium Secundus whole thing. Now, the last one on this list is Garrow. This isn't actually a book, this is an anthology. I have removed all the other anthologies, but Garrow is, or Nathaniel Garrow as a character, is one of the better characters. He is probably second to Garviel Loken in my opinion throughout the Heresy. He is just great, and you should read everything that has him in it, in my opinion. And he is also one of the only characters from the Death Guard that I will consider to be good. The only other one that I like from the Death Guard is Typhus, and he is pretty mid. Now, we're on to the final tier, the absolute favorites, and I'm sure that there is no contention when it comes to these, so I'm just going to go through these quickly. Horus Rising, False Gods, Galaxy in Flames. They are the first three books. The first one is just a great piece of literature. Horus Rising is worth reading even if you're not into Warhammer. And if you are not into Warhammer and you read it, you'll probably be getting into Warhammer because of it. False Gods then continues this story of Horus, and it is, again, just great. It shows you Horus going from the Horus we know at the start to his fall to chaos, or the midst of his fall of chaos, and then the post-fall of chaos. Galaxy in Flames also starts to deal with the drop site massacre, or not exactly the drop site massacre, the pre-massacre, where we also get to see Soltavitz, Lucius, and a lot of other influential characters. This is also one of those books where I got really fucking emo at the end of it, because it ends up that the Mournival of Abaddon, Little Horus, Garviel Loken, and Tarek Torgarden, I think his name was. I don't know how to pronounce it, but that was his name. Those 4 end up going in 2v2, where Tarek dies to Little Horus, and then the building that they're in is crushed by a Titan, which results in Abaddon and Horus Axeman, or Little Horus, leaving, and Garviel Loken supposedly dying in the rubble. Now, Flight of the Eisenstein shows a different perspective to this. It does show the beginning of the Drop Site Massacre, or not the Drop Site Massacre, the other massacre on Isfahan 3, not Isfahan 5. Where we have, once again, Nathaniel Garro on a ship called the Eisenstein. And he basically finds out that they're dropping chemical bombs, which are big no-nos. And he kills other Astartes, and there's a big conflict. Not only that, but Garro is also one of the original people who believed in the Emperor as a god. And, or at the very least, he's one of the first Astartes to do that. He goes through a lot in this book for character, and he ends up on the moon. He also gets bitch slapped by Rogel Dawn, which was really funny to see, because honestly, who doesn't want to see an Astartes get bitch slapped by Rogel Dawn? Like, who doesn't? But also, this book is important because we get our first look at Chaos Demons in this book. One of the Astartes actually turns into a demon. I don't remember the name of it, but it's a somewhat important demon. Oh wow, this video is getting long. I am going to try and wrap this up quickly. Legion is the first Alpha Legion book. It is great. The Alpha Legion are awesome. If you like spy novels, you'll love this. However, there is one massive fucking issue, and that is John fucking Grammaticus is in this book, and he is so fucking annoying. Apologies for the ear rape, but I need to get the point across. John Grammaticus sucks as a character. This is also one of the first books that I think we get introduced to the Cabal in, which are somewhat important come the Siege of Terror and the End of the Death series. So definitely give this a read regardless, but it is fun to read. Last, but certainly not least, Know No Fear by Dan Abnett. Why am I naming Dan Abnett for this one? Who knows. Know No Fear deals with the betrayal on Kauth, as well as the beginnings of the Shadow Crusade that is mentioned in Betrayer. This book is so good that you should just read it. It is probably my second or third favorite book in the entire Heresy, and if you don't want to read it just because of that, let me tell you, there is a very cool scene in this book that you should definitely read it for. That being the scene where Rabute Gilliman is running around in space without a helmet on, just killing word bearers for no reason other than just because he can. Anyway, that has been my tier list. Let me know what you think in the comments, and I want you to go down in the comments and just tear me apart with your opinions. Destroy me with your opinions. Share this to your friends and tell them to come and destroy me, and then subscribe, and then tear me apart again. Have a lovely day, and I will see you in the next video.